We got to move into our next topic. And Nick, I'm going to leave it to you because we're having a little bit of a rough go about it this episode. But I want you to pick. We're going to talk about either Riot, Vanguard, anti-software, or we want to hop right into mid-season invitational recap and setup.
So, we can talk about Riot Vanguard first, right? Riot Vanguard's probably like just a simpler, easier topic to just go into real quick. One of the things about Riot Vanguard is this new anti-cheat, right? And a lot of players have had to install it because we just had a patch over the last week. And so it's now been enabled on every single region and everything like that.
Right. Let me jump in real quick on that too, because it's something that has existed for Valorant players for a while, right? But now League of Legends players have had to adopt it more recently, and that's where this is stemming from, correct?
Yes. It's interesting that the problem that popped up did not pop up for Vanguard players, I guess. This is the interesting part, right? Is that Vanguard apparently, after doing the patch, a lot of people were saying that it was breaking their systems, a lot of, not able to play League, or they're not even able to start their PCs and stuff like that. And it turns out, there is a small percentage of the player base that is negatively impacted by Vanguard. But a majority of cases are apparently just due to old hardware that they have that they're not really prepared for, or people bypassing hardware requirements that were initially part of Windows 11, then were taken away for a little bit, but are still this is something that you're still affected by if you bypass these hardware requirements when they were no longer deemed necessary by Microsoft. But all the developers that developed all their programs, security programs, bootloaders, whatever you want to call it, these guys have all developed for a certain requirement for Windows 11. Some people bypass this, and unfortunately now they're getting negatively impacted by things that were basically made for people who did not bypass the requirements, and that's a majority of people who are getting hit for this.
Hey, Billy here. Wanted to take a quick minute to let you know a few different things. If you enjoyed the video so far, please consider liking and subscribing. It really helps us out, and it tells the algorithm to share it with more people. You can find the Esports Meta live every week on Twitch and YouTube. It's where we film the podcast or hang out, play games, and chat. If social media is more your vibe, check us out on Instagram, TikTok, Threads, or Twitter if you use Threads. Does anybody use Threads? This is a video game community that's excited to talk about esports, so jump into the conversation. Of course, you can find more videos like this here on YouTube. Just hit that subscribe button right there or there. Thanks for watching, and let's get back to the show. Yeah, just to kind of further go into it, I'm going to bring us up on an article to kind of dive in. And like you said, it was a really well explained, very concise narrative of what's happening, what's going on. The controversy is really that League of Legends players in this 14-year-old game, 13-year-old game, have to now use this anti-cheat software, which is kernel level, and it requires access to a specific high-end or newer hardware. And League of Legends is an older game with lower requirements, so there's a bit of a disconnect in that, which is what you were saying. Rolling down on this article here, which also does a great job at going more in depth on it. Vanguard is a kernel mode driver that boots up when you run the PC. The client checks to make sure you're not running anti-cheat software while you're playing Valorant, which is originally where and what it was used for. Now it's used across all of Riot's games, League of Legends, Teamfight Tactics, etc.
Yeah.
One of the controversial things with kernel level is that proponents of them say that you need kernel level because that's where the hackers are operating outside of security software, antivirus, etc. So to meet them at their arms race, they also need access to that. But kernel level, as described by people who are hesitant for it or against them is that it has complete access to everything on your computer, and it's unnecessary for you to detect those anti-cheats, those cheating software. So like that's a bit of the background for kernel level there. But Nick, you wanted to jump in real quick on that?
Well, I was just thinking like, you know, nobody really had problems with other, I don't want to say versions of Vanguard, but other anti-cheat softwares that are also kernel level. They didn't have the same breaking effects, and it's because they're made for, like, they don't have this TPM 2.0 requirement that is, you know, hindering some people's PCs, or
right.
You know, it's just you upgraded too soon because you're like in the like, I want to be a jerk and say, like, in the words of Pokimane, just say you a broke boy. Like, it's all good. Like, we all have bad computers, right? But no, like, my computer's not too good. I have a 1070 Ti, right? Like, that's like 10 years ago graphic card, right? But like, you know, you just upgraded to Windows 11 a little bit too soon. That's pretty, like, a good portion of people did that. And
yeah, and I know Windows 11 did push a hardware change along with the software change, but I wonder, like you said, how many people just circumvented that on the bootleg level. Here's just a quick diagram of where kernel operates on as far as privilege. They literally have full access to everything, which is the same place where hackers or cheaters are going to want to operate at, so that they don't have to like worry about, like, you know, being stopped or anything. But as we saw, and a little bit of a counterpoint to that, the kernel level and the upgrading and other software not really having that problem. A couple months ago, we had apexlegends get hacked potentially because of their easy anti-cheat. It was never disclosed what was really the cause, if it was Apex software or if it was easy anti-cheat. There was a lot of controversy between the two. But that's another kernel level software, and if it's not easy anti-cheat that's doing it, it was Apex access to it, perhaps. And we don't know a lot about that still. They've been very, you know, rightfully so, very quiet about that situation. But like, that's another kind of point to this stuff where you're talking about other programs not having this problem because they have a lower bar of entry, probably because they were built on Windows 10, whereas this one was built on Windows 11, expecting the TPM 2.0. But like, I guess in that way too, while we're at it, let's just kind of like really directly say, like, your system will not be bricked if you're running an appropriate version of Windows 11 and have the TPM 2.0 protocol on your device, on your hardware, your BIOS, I believe it is. Then just have to say that flat out straight to you. Nick, is there anything you want to add to that, like, sort of statement about players who are complaining falsely about this problem?
I don't have TPM 2.0.
You don't?
I played League this morning. Like, so just to give you an example, it's on you, it's not on them. Like, for the most part, there are a small percentage of these people, but like, I still have Windows 10. When they said, like, hey, do you want to upgrade to Windows 11? I said no. Why do I need to upgrade to Windows 11? You just came out with that buggy thing. I don't want to, like, I don't want to beta test for you, Microsoft. And a lot of people said, you know what, maybe I want to go, like, it's the new thing, you know? So maybe they just did it for that. There was a lot of pressure from Windows to go from 10 to 11, and especially with hardware. I ended up buying a new PC, and that came with Windows 11, so I had to upgrade. Is what it is, but I also didn't need to worry about it because then I'm operating a TPM 2.0. I'm not operating a motherboard from 20 years ago with TPM 1. 20 years ago. Mean. It's like you got two... You know, I mean, honestly, I think my motherboard probably does have 2.0, but I just haven't bothered upgrading the Windows 11, so it just really doesn't affect me.
Right. And I'm sure if players want to double check if they have TPM 2.0, if you Google a quick search of what hardware, what BIOS you're using, they'll be able to give you quick instructions, detailed instructions on how to do that. But more or less, it's not Vanguard that's bricking your system. It's the hardware incongruencies. And if anything, a little bit better communication from Riot and a little bit better matching of hardware to software requirements from League to Vanguard would have been better communicated. But ultimately, yeah, it's just down to system requirements and what you're using on your system.
Again, like these is pretty. The people who are experiencing this, they're pretty unique overall. League is 15 years old. There are people like you can play this game on a very old computer and have it function fine. The graphics aren't going to be great, but you can have it function and be relatively playable for a lot of older computers. A lot of really junky laptops can run this game as long as the processor's doing fine. You know, not to say, you know, oh, the game isn't that good. Like like Doom was just put onto a cell, by the way, in case you didn't know this.
I saw that. That was cool.
It's not on the level of Doom yet, but it's a pretty simple game for a lot of PCs to run. The people who are experiencing this, again, like they're so unique in the situation. It's a perfect storm of just nonsense for the most part. This coming out in order to help against cheaters, and I'm not even sure if this is like also to try to combat like a lot of the stuff that certain hackers and stuff are targeting certain players and stuff like that, if they're DDoSing them on purpose and stuff like that. I'm not sure if this is like a helpful way to possibly track these bad actors or something along those lines. Like if they get hit, like I don't know how it all works, but this came out relatively quickly on League. And after, we had a lot of stuff going on in Korea for, them getting DDoS, them getting, a couple hacks.
Right. It's also coming out right before MSI. And like you said, like League is a game that, kind of prides itself as being accessible to many because of the low requirements, system requirements. Even back 10, 15 years ago when it came out, it really didn't need a lot of system to like play. And like, I'm an old hat, so I remember playing World of Warcraft on a dial-up modem, 56.6K, kind of like just flashing, rubber banding around Ironforge. And like League was always kind of been that same mentality where it's like we've built on a system, a foundation that your system requirements don't have to be really high to just make it happen. You could be playing on a dial-up. But now, as modernization is happening, we're seeing those pain points.
Yeah, they're upgrading. I don't know if they're going to upgrade their spaghetti, but their code potentially will get a little bit better. The game is getting upgraded, and this is 100% a true story. When I first started to play League, I could not actually play the game properly. My computer would freeze at 100%, just freeze on one frame for a good minute and a half every time more than one character was on the screen in a 10-person match. All right. And so I had to play a specific champion that her name is Natalie, and she threw spears from really, really far away. And so that's the only champion. Like, I love that champion because I was able to play it in my game and still like do stuff. But I literally couldn't have like one more person on the screen with me at the same time. Otherwise it would freeze and I would die.
That's wild. That's wild that was a thing and that you persisted. You found a solution where you're just going to play a long shot, skill shot character from afar and just not have any other character on screen. You're effectively playing a solo Rambo game.
Yeah, no, it was pretty cool. It was a lot of fun. But things happen. You get better computers, and then you get to actually play the game. But that's literally like that's just to show you like the hardware is not like really a limiting factor because I was able to play without actually having characters on the screen. I didn't win much, but I played.
Yeah.